Would you like to know more?
Welcome to the Warmaster Podcast, episode 12 of Adventures in 3D Printing. Today we're looking at Comarty Forge Dwarf Warriors and some heroes. The Dwarf Warriors are the type with the round shields. I've corrected, there was some kind of white balance issue. It's like some auto white balance from the last video, so I've corrected that, I think, now, so we should be able to see a bit better. I'm going to start this video looking at this Dwarf King on his throne. I did print off a full unit of Dwarf Warriors with round shields and some heroes that I'm going to show you, and getting them off the plate proved impossible, and I broke them into zillions of pieces again, which is very frustrating. As I've said before, I am all the time experimenting to try and find better ways to get them off the print bed. So the print bed is a big metal plate that connects to your printer, and these guys get printed upside down like this, starting with the base, and then the print bed. Imagine this 2 pence is the print bed, so the first layer gets printed on, and then it moves up, moves back down. The next layer gets printed on, moves up, moves back down, and then when it's finally printed, you have to get it off. But obviously you want it to adhere to the metal print bed, because otherwise it falls off into the printer and your print fails. So it has to stick pretty well, but then you have to be able to get it off. So there's a kind of, what's the word? There's like a contradiction, or like a competition between, you want it to stick, but you don't want it to stick too much. But you definitely want it to stick, is the first. If the choice was not stick or stick too much, it's stick too much, and then deal with that. So I'm experimenting and finding ways to get. Anyway, we don't want to talk too much about theoretical stuff. So we want to look a little bit at these Comarty drawers. So this is your king. He's got a nice big pint of beer there. I'm still printing at 0.05 mil layers, and the reason for that is a pixel is about 0.05. So if you imagine your x-axis and your y-axis and your z-axis, which are 3 axes, if the x and y are stuck at 0.05 mil, I figure keep that little cube of print material to be the same. So if the resolution on the x and y is 0.05, then realistically what am I going to achieve by having the z, the vertical axis, at 0.1 or 0.01, which is a fifth. So for every detail it can capture x and y, I could copy 5 times as much detail vertically. But how is that going to improve anything? I don't know if it will or it won't. So I'm tending to kind of leave it as a default settings at the moment for the x-axis. I like this throne here. This is very intricate. This is going to look nice painted up. And there's a bit of scenic stuff going on the base. Oh, it's like a trapdoor or something, or maybe it's, yeah, maybe it gets pulled along. Oh, maybe I broke some bits off there, or maybe they're not on there. Anyway, that's a nice piece of kit. Everybody likes a dwarf. Everybody likes. Yeah, he's got a big ass beard, hasn't it? It reaches the floor. Well, I mean, he is sat down, and then I've got a couple of 3 thanes, or not thanes, runesmiths, with some anvils. So let's have a look at one without the anvil. Here he is. So he's got a big Timmy mallet, for those people who know what Timmy mallet was. Mallet's mallet. Or a big 2-handed hammer, I guess you describe it if you don't know who Timmy Mallet is, and a nice bit of cloaking. Yeah, he's a nice fella. And then we have 2 with anvils. And if you see the anvil there, maybe. I mean, he's actually gone so far, Crazy John here. There's actually stuff on the dice. God knows what I'm supposed to do with it. There's a 1 on that dice. I think that dice needs burning. And I guess here he's forging dice. Here's your little dice forge. So there's 3 dice. I can't see what's on the other faces. I'll put an anvil on here. They won't be having the anvil in the game, but I figure, you know, they're runesmiths. So the 2 that I'm going to use in my list are going to have anvils, just to show them off. That's what they're doing. They're making runes. Just got a guy here, big beard, big moustache, and another big 2-handed hammer. And then we got this fella here, the 3rd one. It's a bit rubbish. No, it's a bit rubbish though. I wonder if I can pick that off. Yeah, there we go. An anvil, no dice on this one. There's a bit of lining on the. What, is that an M or is it an Imperial Eagle or something on the front? It's quite small. I can see some lining on this, so maybe this is where I could have overexposed them, which is absolutely possible. I think I was using the grey resin that I don't really get on with for these ones. So I turned the exposure time up, and so if you overexpose you get lines, or it could be that I could counter that by having smaller, as we talked about earlier, smaller vertical print layers. But the thing about this 3D printing is there are millions of variables, and like if something goes wrong, it's not, oh, it's X, or it could be like, oh, it could be one of half a dozen things, and then yeah, you're always learning because there's always stuff to learn. Different resins behave differently, different machines behave differently, different miniatures behave differently. So then I printed 4 copies of this stand, and what I did was I reduced the initial layer times, because you have the first, like between 4 and 8 layers, you run much longer, so that creates some adhesion between the base here and your print bed. So if I normally print for 2 seconds, I think it's recommended you do 40 seconds for the first 6 layers. I think is how the mono sets up. So these are dwarfs without they're called round shield dwarfs. So you can see a bit more of the dwarf, because on the rectangular shielded ones, all you could see on the front was some shield and the helmet and a little bit of face. But here you can actually, I didn't feel confident getting in and painting the face, but here I'm pretty sure you could paint the faces and then paint the shield. And there's some lines going on here again, but again that's probably down to my setup, because as the meme it seems to be is like the first question anybody asks you when you ask what's causing this is your settings. So you'll hear that question a million times, so get used to taking pictures of them or discussing them. Although I can see here there's lines going in a different direction, going like, what's that, north, south, north, west, so that's southwest to kind of northeast, the lines on that one, and these lines are going in a different direction again. So I'm not sure that is anything to do with my my layers or my overexposure. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's just as good as the details as I can get on these fellas. But I like these guys. I think I prefer them. So if I'm going to build an army of dwarves, I'm going to base them around these dwarf warriors. And we're going to try and print off some other stuff. We'll print off some artillery in our next Comarty Forge episode. I think I did damage some of the bases on these, but I'm beginning to learn now that unless the damage is like they're all smashed into 6 pieces, and I can't be bothered with the 6 times 12 or so. That's 72-piece jigsaw that leaves, where each man's on a different bit of base. This one's got a crack through the middle here, but once you've glued it onto its stand, once it's painted and pasted, you're never going to know that. So I think there is going to be a degree of breakage on, especially on the bases of these kind of miniatures, these strips of miniatures, and that's something you're just going to have to learn to live with, I think. So next up, next video I'm going to talk about NIDs, because that's another thing I'm building is my NIDs, and yeah, I've got some good stuff to show you on that one. So till next time.